We're still going. It really hasn't stopped at all. It's just,
Okay. Oh, okay.
it's just
And,
figuring
and
yourself.
just finally to put an up-to-date indicator on it. If you get a letter from me in the mail, the stamp is askew. I ain't lining up my stamps, which is
So this is all intentional.
yeah, and
reverence.
there's a certain and there's a certain defiance in it. That's what it is. I am in touch with a
But what do you think?
constant
So,
droning
I mean,
defiance.
I totally understand that sort of sense of independence, a sense of, but there's a fine line where it kind of gets into a sort of righteousness a little bit, you know. I mean, I've definitely had my fair share of irreverent moments, which I could share with you along the way, but I'm not sure what good it's done, or what, you know, and how it's actually helped me along the way, or really, you know, made things.
I'm just
any
talking.
easier.
I'm not talking about anything that I'm not talking about any campaign here. I'm talking about just a rudimentary way of being in the world that I've identified. There is from time to time anger attached to it, but
Frustration,
It's not, yeah,
yeah.
but it's not. It's not artificial. It's I'm uncomfortable if I'm conforming.
Mm.
I don't, you know, I'll do it if I see that I need to or have to.
Yeah.
For some greater good beyond myself. But if it's just for me, you in trouble.
Right. You certainly don't need your stamps aligned, right? On your
No.
letters, right? That's not, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about this last time about making laws to protect yourself from yourself.
Right. Yeah, no, so this, because I think when you start to go down that road of irreverence, there can be real problems when at some point, you know, like we talked about last time about like if everybody feels like they should carry a gun, but then all of a sudden you've got real problems on your hands.
Right, but my irreverence translates in ways that have nothing to do with guns or even antisocial anything. It's more of a you don't understand it, you don't like it, bring it.
Right. Well,
I
do like your theory of what is it, this notion about anything that's what is you're saying about anything that's human, anything that.
Yes, the great Fred Rogers,
right.
Pointed out, and he was counseling children at the time, and it makes more importance. It's weightier. He said that anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that's mentionable is manageable.
Right. So sometimes
we're in here mentioning stuff.
Sometimes manageable does mean how we get along with in society, right? That's part of managing it. If I go to the beach, it's a beautiful day. I go back to the naked thing, and I want to stand there naked because it feels good, you know, to have the air and the sun on my skin, which is what I've talked about this before, like with a baby. The first time you tell the 2-year-old, say it's 2-year-old, they're at the beach frolicking around naked, put your clothes on, right? They have to be completely confused. Like, what do you mean? Like, there's something better than this?
That's how they learn.
You know?
That's how they learn shame, maybe.
Right. They learn shame in socialization.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, sometimes they would say it in a harsh way, which is shame. And sometimes they would say it in a, like, you know, we just want to protect you or something, you know, in a less of a shameful way.
But somehow it's filtered down to translate largely for the lumpen proletariat as shame.
Right, but on some certain level, it says some, as you said, the human body is divine, and whatever you want to call it, right? It is, so it has to be divine.
Whatever's natural is okay.
Right, But there are lots of ways in which it's not okay in society, right? And the question is, what purpose is that serving? And um, and yeah, so and is that really for the better of society? Is it to make us all comfortable? I mean,
it's a trial and error thing.
Yeah.
It's a democratic thing. Social norms evolve according to what's important to the influencers, deciders, and they can be arbitrary, but there are natural taboos. You start with taboo, I think. There are things that are cross-culturally wrong to do. Incest.
right. Yeah. I mean, okay,
So you start
we
with
can
those
use, so we can
things,
use incest as
and-
one, but that's different, I would say, from sort of like, child abuse or molestation or something like that. Incest actually went on for thousands of years in some way, shape, or form.
Well,
You go
I'm
out to
not
like,
talking beyond
you go-
Neanderthal and
not even Neanderthal,
Denisovans.
you go out to really remote villages, right? And they don't even have to be in like really, then the gene pool starts to get pretty small. And my point is that, so that's different from, having relationships with children, but having relationships with relatives, that actually has gone on for thousands of years in parts of the world. And
Doesn't make it not a taboo.
right, it makes it there, and so but the question
So
is,
you're violating. I mean, yes, you're free to violate. Go ahead, violate. There are sanctions for that.
right,
So you have the freedom. We're all free to break the law.
yeah, and then deal with the consequences of that, right, or not. Like we all, the notion of, we had the thing about stop signs, right? We're all free to roll through the stop signs, and sometimes we're going to get stopped.
It's
right?
just bad for everybody in general.
It's in general,
And
if
that's what
everybody
makes
rolls
it-
through stop
that's what
signs, then we
makes it-
have problems, right?
Sanctionable.
Right.
That's what makes it. I mean, we have to agree to get along. I mean, we're social organisms.
Right.
We're
This
not
goes
mole
back.
rats.
This goes back to your, so how do you weigh that off with our irreverent tendencies and stuff like that? So, because
Yeah,
if we get up to a stop sign and we're just kind of like,
there's
well,
of
screw it
course
today.
gray areas, and
Right.
I fill that with irreverence.
Right.
I fill that vacuum with irreverence, and every once in a while, I'm sure I'm going to abut up against being wrong about it.
Yeah, or having some other
But I'm just describing.
unintended consequences.
Yeah, but I'm not. I don't. It is a choice, but I don't experience it as a choice. I experience it as self-actualizing. It's just the way I am in the world. And if I'm not reined in, that's how I'm going to be.
Right.
Now, I may do a lot of the reining in.
Right. Like who's going to?
But the older I get, the less reining in I do, which touches on what I really. I mean, this is just
the precursor.
yeah. This is not really what I
Let's
am
get to
sitting here percolating about.
Yeah. What are you percolating about?
Well, okay, so I come in, and Greg has this book on my table, When Things Fall Apart. And I cracked up because I'm sitting here thinking, well, what are we going to talk about today? What are we going to talk about today? And I know that Greg's in a place of turbulence or imbalance, and I'm in a place of I'm in a troubled place. I am unable to, and I'm not sure I want to, but it's not a happy place to be. I'm unable to get out of being enveloped by my sense of mortality. I have grounds for confronting it acutely recently, and I can't shake it. I'm not trying to shake it, but it's a transformative place to be. I mean, we're all getting older, but there's a point at which you start to feel, I can't do that anymore the way I used to.
Right.
I guess I don't know, the first time I realized it, I used to play in a softball game every weekend, a few years ago. And the first time I realized it, I'm in the outfield and there's a ball hit, and I'm leave the bat and I see the trajectory, and my instincts were, well, okay, I'll run this fast at this angle and I'll make this catch like I did 1,000 times before.
Yeah, right.
That's what my brain said. My body said, fuck you. And that was a shock to me.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a landmark moment. Okay, so I tucked that away. I haven't had, from that point forward, didn't have a lot of those landmark moments, but they're starting to come in much more frequently. And they're profound. It's got to do with physical inabilities. It's got to do with health shit that accompany the breakdown of your body, because you're not going to live forever. And it's like your car says, recalculating. I have to start recalculating where to run to catch that ball, because I can't do it the way I used to.
Right. Yeah.
And
the angle and the speed have to change. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And just also the how we manage our time and things like that, in terms of, okay.
And I heard you just say how we manage the time we have left. I mean, that's how consumed I am with this.
Yeah, well, I think there's some, there's truth in that. There's truth in, we've talked about this before, that, we're either going to, get hit by a bus, or we're going to get sick and die, right? And as we get older, the hit by the bus thing, that risk stays about the same, unless all of a sudden we're, driving in a lot more traffic, right? So that risk is always there, that we're going to have just a bad accident. But the risk.
You mean that something happens to us that we don't have an opportunity to influence, like health.
Right. Well, we may not have it. Again, we might just be minding our business, crossing the street, and a bus comes and runs us over. That can happen too. So it's so either we know that we're either going to have an accident and die. Like I had that head accident the other day, and my first recollection was, well, have I broken my neck? And fortunately that we checked that one off the list. That didn't happen. But you kind of go through this whole thing of like, okay, how badly injured am I, and what's this going to mean for me? It all happens in about 10 seconds. You run through this whole thing, and so, but my point is that the whole thing about, as we get older, it's not just the recalculating the car is wearing out. And at some point, the car is going to stop.
And sometimes we can replace some parts, and sometimes it's futile.
Right. So that becomes more self-evident and
more. But when that begins to happen, it changes your
life
outlook and way of being in the world. It changes your expectations. It changes your aspirations. It changes your outlook, your relationships, and it's not welcome.
No.
So that's the state welcome. I am in.
It's not.
I am in an unwelcoming state. A lot.
Yeah. And so how does how does that unwelcoming state show up for you? How does it manifest?
Yeah, that's very personal. There's an element of resignation about it. Not the good kind of acceptance for the sake of tranquility and peacefulness.
Right.
There's a resignation about it, like, I'm too tired to fight anymore. I'm too tired to mount a campaign to lose weight. I'm too tired to mount a campaign to go back to the gym. I'm too tired to mount a campaign to look for more business. There's a resignation which smacks of giving up. There's a sense of, I could do it. I know what I need to do. And if I would do it, it would be really good for me. It would attenuate the bad shit that's happening to a large degree. And I don't know what's at play. Here's what we know. I'm not doing it.
Right.
And
so, and some of you don't want to do it.
I don't know,
right.
Greg.
Yeah.
I don't know. All I can report is I'm not doing it. And there's a certain resignation about that, a certain perverse peacefulness about that. There's a giving up. There's you cross the fucking finish line of a marathon.
You can stop running.
Well, yeah, but there's a wildfire coming, and now you have to get up and run again. Fuck you, I'm done.
Right.
I did my job.
Yeah. But is that, I mean, there's kind of a little bit of a beauty in that, a little bit, you know, in the sense of this whole running, you know, as he said, like the marathon or on the it's like, where are we going? Where are we going? You know, we're still going to die at some point, regardless of what you do.
Is
right?
it not selfish to choose to not prolong your life?
I don't, okay, that's a really good question, and one we could spend.
I mean,
but on a very personal level, I don't think so. You know, I think it's your life. It's your life.
we have always had this core, fundamental
difference about like,
disagreement. That's not the word.
well, that's okay.
But
Let's go into it. I mean, because it's probably worth
about how selfish one has, and I don't mean selfish negatively. I don't mean the connotation. I mean selfish about the self. How selfish one has to be to succeed spiritually, to succeed being.
I think succeeding spiritually is a self-realization project.
Right.
And self-realization.
And what's good for you only, you have to commit to letting go of what's good for others.
All right. But
I'm thinking about children now.
Okay, but you're not 35 years old. Okay, you're not 35 years old with your children growing up. And I'm not saying that people won't be sad. I will be sad if you die or when you die. I will be sad. I will mourn and I'll be sad and I'm going to miss you.
Well, don't forget, you could get hit by a bus and die before.
Exactly. I could get hit by a bus beforehand or get sick and die beforehand. Who knows? I mean, like I had a friend of mine die at 51 of bone cancer, you know, so, you know, and it happened like that.
Right. Okay. So your thought is, I will be sad
but I will be okay because you are going to die. You know, and that's a fact.
And so you're saying that as a surrogate for my children, they'll be okay.
They will be okay. They will be sad.
Won't they be angry that I didn't take care of myself as much as I could have? Do I want to leave the last taste in their mouth?
That's
a
a
bitter one?
story in your head, that whole Dylan Thomas rage against the dying of the light thing. I actually think that's kind of bullshit, honestly. I really do. I think there's no obligation to rage against the dying
Yeah,
of the light.
I understand
You
that
know,
argument.
There's part of Lao Tzu which says about, you do your work, you do what you're here to do, and then dying is like going to sleep after a hard day's work. It's nothing to be afraid of, because it's like we've done our work. And I remember, and I'll just tell you this story. I think I've told this to you before, about being in New Zealand, right? And so I'm hiking in New Zealand all by myself.
This story.
And
this
so,
is profound.
Right. So I'm hiking all by myself, and I'm following this river up this mountain.
And nobody knows you're there.
Nobody knows I'm here. I'm out in the middle of like a forest, and alone by myself,
Idiot.
hiking. Well, I mean, it was an actual hiking trail.
I'm just being a little jubilant about it.
But I have this like rental car. I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I go up the river, and then it gets to this huge waterfall. And I'm like, this major waterfall.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, that is awesome.
You already died and went to heaven.
Right. So I'm just hanging out, meditating there for a while. And then I go up some more, and I go to the lake, which is above the waterfall. I'm coming back down the same trail, because I got to get back to my car eventually. And the trail goes off to the side, and I follow this off to the side trail. It's a different trail now. And I just figured, should I go on this one for a while? And it goes to where the river that came out of the lake goes underground. And then it goes underground and goes out the waterfall.
And not peacefully either.
It's like rushing down, like, whoosh, and it's really power. And I can hear it underneath me on the ground. And I'm a good 100 yards away from the waterfall. So it goes underground for 100 yards or so, at least.
Too long to breathe.
Wait. Well, it's also, the waterfall comes out of rocks. It's not like it's like shooting out of the side of this cliff, not off the top.
It's doing what the fuck it wants.
It's doing whatever it wants. The water's doing whatever it wants, but it's going underground and then shooting out this. So I just sit there for a while and meditate. And all of a sudden, it was kind of terrifying. I got this compulsion to jump into the water, like this kind of like pull to just fall in.
Part of it.
To just fall into the water. And it was this part of me that knew that I would just disappear from the planet. No one would ever find me, ever. I'd be underneath that rock somewhere, caught up on something with my backpack and nothing. That's it. I just disappear from the planet. And it was both terrifying and elating at the same time. It was a sense of awe.
I get that. And there's a release.
There was a release in it. There was a beauty in it. It was terrifying. And what the biggest thing that pulled me back, there was self-preservation that pulled me back. But in my mind, what pulled me back is not wanting my parents mostly to freak out, and could cause them
and
pain.
That's what I'm talking about. Sometimes you have to decide against what your humanistic drive is for the sake of other people.
But part of it was also that whole disappearing thing. I think there's something even more profound. It's like those people who are still looking for those airplanes that crash out in the middle of the ocean, and the people just disappear from the planet. And that tends to cause the people left behind just really profound angst if you can't find the body, right? So my disappearing without a trace actually did seem cruel. That was actually
mythical.
But it was cruel. You see what I mean?
Yes.
As opposed to if I got killed in a car accident in New Zealand, my parents would have come and got me. They would have been sad and upset. But shit happens, right? I could have gotten
beginning, middle, and end.
Right, and they would have brought me back to the United States and had a funeral, and everybody would be sad, but at least there was a beginning, a middle, and end. If I just disappear without a trace, that leaves people in this
Lingering.
long-term angst, which I felt was too cruel. That was too cruel part of me. There's lots of things that are going on in these few minutes, right? But that was one of the things that said, okay, Greg, get back on the trail and walk back down, don't throw yourself into the waterfall right now, and so I guess, I look at that as a spiritual moment for me, like a spiritual reckoning. It was a very profound experience. And
because you actually were in you were in a moment of the throes of death.
right. Yeah. The moment of the throes of death.
And
with that
terror
possibility,
of that.
both the
I have
terror
been there.
and the peace of it,
Yes.
both were side by, I was aware of
Yes.
both experiences. And so I feel like you do you, Norman, right? You do you.
Okay, I
And-
agree with that.
And that doesn't mean like I would like you. I've suggested this to you to up your game a little bit on the self-care. I've tried to encourage you to do it. But as you know, I love you regardless of what you decide to do and what you do. You up your care, I love you. You down, you don't do it, I still love you. So my love of you is irregardless of what choices you make.
My conflict, actually, it's not a conflict. The problem is that it's not a conflict, is that I'm at this place now where I don't want to fight. I don't want to muster the discipline. I don't.
Yeah.
I can't get away from Woody Allen's thought, which was, I'm not afraid to die. I just don't want to be there when it happens, because when I confront the truth of where I am now, I know it's going to be ugly or painful or frightening, whatever that moment is, that is a consequence of my neglect.
Mostly be frightening. It probably won't even be all, I mean, like, again,
Well, it could be painful. It could be, inability to breathe, like drowning.
Right.
I mean,
Well, that's frightening. I don't think actually, like, I'm not sure how painful drowning is.
no,
it's frightening.
Well, drowning's not painful.
Right.
Heart attack could be painful.
I don't know if I can feel, but it's relative. I mean, how long is it going to go on for? We're talking,
My thoughts exactly.
right. It's not that long of pain. But the hard part is, I'm having a heart attack. I'm probably going to die now. That's scary. That is definitely scary.
Yeah.
But I just think about like almost that. On the other hand, though, that is something which we can meditate on and be with, because nobody gets an escape from that except for people who die instantaneously.
Right.
People who die in an instant or in their sleep or something like that, they get relief from that for some reason. And most people, that's how they wish they would die, right? In their sleep, right? I think I've admitted this to you before. And again, I can't believe I'm going to say this now, but I actually choose to have a terminal disease if I were to choose how I'm going to die. I actually think about my friend who died of bone cancer, and he got from diagnosis to death was 2.5 months, something like that, something incredible.
That's a harsh 2.5 months.
It is, but you can choose to do different things. I mean, you can choose, like, the question is, do you choose to do everything you can, or do you choose to just take the morphine and let the thing? So now you take the morphine.
Well,
right.
That's an intervening variable I didn't think about.
Right. No, you take the morphine and the cancer runs its course and you die in 6 weeks. Never mind, 10 or 12. So it might. And so the thing about it is for me, and again, this is just me and my journey. I want to know.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't imagine wanting to know how or when.
For me, it's I think I've told you before, I don't want to be dead, but I would like to know
You
what
don't mind
dying
dying.
is like.
I get that.
I
Because
wanna
dead
know
is
what dying-
forever.
Dead
but
is
dying
dead is you
is
can't come-
interesting.
But dying is interesting. Dying is interesting.
But
Dying,
you don't want to be dead.
I don't want to be dead.
Me either.
No, I don't.
I
wanna
don't
be dead.
want to be dead.
Right.
Because
Right.
dead is forever.
Dead is forever. But that's another thing we can meditate on is meaning forever. We spend most of eternity dead, right? So we just like the more we can get comfortable with that truth, the more it frees us.
I agree, but
In-
that's a
in-
transcendent place that I'm not gonna achieve. You know.
No, but you don't say that because you're on the way to achieving it. You already are surrendering.
I am
You are
surrendering,
surrendering to this truth.
but I'm fighting their surrendering. I'm not happy about.
You're only
surrendering.
fighting it internally. You're not
Yeah,
fighting
of
it
course.
physically.
Of course.
You're not. You're
So
not
what would
saying,
you
"Hey."
counsel me? What would you counsel me?
It's almost as though we have to do our own grief work. We have to do our
I don't know
own.
what that means.
Well, meaning like, it's like we have to be with the impermanence of our beingness and be with that truth and allow that truth to, it's like trying to keep the rose bush alive through the winter, right? It's like, no, that's not how the rose bush is going to work. It has to go fallow, right? And we go fallow, and you have, raised these beautiful children, and they have beautiful children now. You've done your sort of seeding of humanity.
Don't
plus-
I owe
plus-
them something beyond
I don't
my
think
own
so.
selfish
No.
agenda?
No, that's my.
You're not the only
my-
friend I have
my
that said
advice.
that to
You
me.
do not owe
I
them-
have to tell you, I disagree.
Okay, and I believe, and I love you with that too. But I'm telling you that you have put them forth into the world in a beautiful way. You shared a lot of that with me.
That
and-
was
and-
when I talk about the marathon, that's largely it.
right, and you
My
can-
purpose for
right.
Remember the first session we had, which got aborted? We introduced ourselves, and what was the first thing out
You
of
said
my
you were a
mouth?
father,
Right.
Right.
Well, who am I? The first thing out of my mouth was, well, I'm a father,
right?
and then I went into my profession.
Yeah.
That's the order that I have lived my life.
And that's a beautiful order, and it's an order which, again, you've first been a father, and then you've been a
Everything
husband,
else.
and then you've also been a psychologist. It's helped a lot of people, and
That's true.
so, like, okay, you don't have to do anything else. Nothing else has to be done. The question is, what do you want for you? What do you want?
I
How do you
can't
want
get
to
a-
feel as you move into, like,
I
you know,
want to be free of the obligations. I want to be free of
well, what kind of
doing
obligation?
anything that makes me feel guilty. I want to be free of.
So, okay, we could work on, okay, what are those things that hold you back from being free? What's between you and being free?
How angry my wife and children would be for me not mustering the discipline to live longer.
You know this. They
Yes.
said to you, we're going to be really angry with you.
My wife has said that to me, and
So you're going to take,
and my son
Yeah.
hasn't said it, but he's behaved it.
he gets
one of my
angry
sons.
with you when
Yeah,
he gives you a hard time
he's-
about your
right.
weight.
He lets me
or-
know that it's a source of real sadness for him, a source of real worry for him that I'm not taking care of myself as fully as I could be.
Yeah.
And that is, I own that. I absorb
I just
that.
think that's awful. I do think it's an awful lot of, I don't know, it's like guilt put on you by them.
No, by me. They're being them, honestly. I'm internalizing their value about it. I'm internalizing
Okay, I
their
get that.
interpretation.
I get that. But so, yeah, you could turn around and calmly say to them, I
I'm good
understand
with it.
what you are saying, and I appreciate it, but
I'm living my life.
this is where I am right now, and I am doing what I feel is best for me.
I'm not doing what's best for me. I'm doing what I'm doing because it's what I want to do. It's a purely hedonistic.
But maybe that's, as you said before about the irreverence thing, right? Hedonism and irreverence they're kind of cousins, right? So
yes.
So maybe this is
it's been a
default
filament in my life that's connected a lot of my decisions.
Right. I mean, so this is a tough one where you could say, when we talk about being selfish, or, you know, we talk about, okay, as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else, right? And so in this case, you feel like, okay, my not taking care of myself, my perhaps accelerating the death project, as I like to call it.
Accepting.
Accepting, but also maybe accelerating in some way by one could not do anything about
that's
it.
Right.
Then one could actually actively
it's a negative acceleration.
I'm going to start eating more fat food. I'm going to start drinking more. I'm going to start, you know. So there's a couple ways of going about this. But the most important part, I think, to me is how do we balance our own desire, say, or with what other people's desires are for us, you know, in terms of, you know, and so the fact,
how do we prioritize?
Yeah, like in terms of like, okay, Andy and your sons want you to live forever, right? That's somewhat unrealistically, but that's what they want, and you know that that's not going to be the case, and so you're just kind of sort of saying, well, what do I want? You're just doing, ultimately you're saying you're not doing anything, but that is a choice. That's a choice, you know. And to overcome, and listen, I understand the feeling of sloth and torpor, you know, I get it. I understand. Like I think about it when I, you know, get up and go to the gym, and especially it's like, oh yeah, no, I don't really feel like doing this today. And sometimes I just don't do it, you know? So, you know, I get that. I think that there is this strong desire to surrender and release. And
the payoff is peace.
Yeah. And that's what we want, don't we?
Yes.
We want peace.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And so here's the thing. So I've thought about this a lot. So we want peace. We want sort of feeling connection and love. And then we want to feel a sense of aliveness, or sense of like, you know, that kind of vibrancy. Now, I think actually dealing with.
You're talking about you now.
Yeah. I'm talking about myself. But I think this is fairly universal in some ways. But just dealing with our own, like that moment when I was standing by the waterfall, that's alive. I felt alive. Now I was contemplating dissolution, contemplating dissolving into the, you know, back into the, but it was an extremely alive moment, extremely one of the most alive moments of my life. Right. So actually dealing with and being with our death is, and this is partly the reason why I want to know about it, because I want to live it.
True, because it keeps it in a powerful way, more than any other way I know. It grounds me in the moment.
It gets you focused, man.
Yeah.
Seriously focused.
This is
in the moment. Now. You've got now.
Which I've always thought and have taught is a goal.
Right. It gets you totally in the present moment. Okay. That is a gift. That's why I want to experience dying, is because I know that it'll probably be the most present I'll ever be in my life, you know, and so I don't want to skip that part. I don't want it to come anytime soon.
You're being theoretical.
No, but I don't want to skip it. I mean, I don't want it to come anytime soon, but I don't want to skip that.
Right.
Moment, okay, and just die in a car accident. That just sounds, you know, and I don't need, you know, and even dying in my sleep sounds kind of boring. So I'm like, okay, you know, give me something where I have to deal with it for a little while, you know, and so I know what's happening. So it gets you so focused. It reminds me of that guy Alex Honnold climbing the cliffs, right, without any ropes. That guy is present. There's no more present person on this planet than that guy, as far as I can tell. You know, and that makes me
The
feel
one who
pride.
climbed El Capitan with
Right,
no ropes.
Right. That, when I watch that, and I think that I don't have the skill to do that, but I am compelled. I'm like, that is friggin' awesome. That's
Even
amazing.
if you had the skill, you'd
I don't, can't control my fear.
think twice.
Right. But but you see, he is like the guy standing next to the waterfall. Like, that's his version of it.
Right. That's
like,
right.
it's right there.
That's right.
Right there.
Well, my version
you
is
know?
way more pedestrian and way more.
No, but in some ways you're living through it now.
Yes.
You're living through it right now.
I am.
In the pedestrian manner, is that everybody is going to go through some version of this, other than those ones who die in their sleep, right? Everybody is going to go through some version of this. So you get the chance to, and here's the gift, Norman, is you get to go through this thing, which is totally yours, any fucking way you want to.
Right.
This is yours. That is not someone else's journey. This is not your kid's journey. This is your journey. And you get to go through it any fucking way you want to go through it. And the rest of us will have our reactions.
You don't get a vote.
No,
unless
not really. We can lobby you. Like your kids can lobby you. Your wife can lobby you. I can lobby you. I am lobbying you. I've told you, like, let's get your shit together, but you're like, no, I don't think so. I'm like, okay. And but it's you. This is what I would counsel for you is, take ownership of this the way you want to take ownership of it. And
I have done that. I've been on this journey with an awareness now for a while, so that I'm in touch with who I am in it and what I'm doing. It's when I start to overlay that with judgment that it interferes with the clarity.
Right. Yeah. Judgment or fear, those two things.
Yeah.
When we start to get either one of those things into the mix, then our decisions get a little distorted. And
it rattles me.
Yeah. One of the things I would, again, which would concern me in my whole idealization of the whole dying process, right? I don't want to be uncomfortable for too long. Like, if this goes on for years,
right? Like
of just slow
stomach
decline,
cancer,
right? Yeah, or just years of you like gaining weight or whatever. It's just like, that's just, you might not die, but you're just going to get kind of miserable. You see what I mean?
Well,
and that's I don't want you to be miserable. So miserable is not where we want to be. Okay, it's not about being.
That's a very interesting, important variable.
Right, because as we've talked about, your condition probably isn't going to kill you.
I'm not happy.
But the whole thing
with
together. Me. Yeah, right. So this is different. Like we're not going to walk around in misery. That's we can surrender, but true surrender is a bliss. It's not misery. True surrender is here we are. Here we are. It's not. If you're looking for empathy, that's not. You're not going to get.
Yeah.
You're not going to. You might get that. I mean, like that's where the anger is going to come in, and that's where the anger is going to be justified with your kids and with your wife and with me to a certain extent. Is if you're looking for a woe is me situation, and I don't think that's you, but just ask yourself that's
that's I don't identify with that at all. But it does ring true that I'm unhappy now as a consequence of the things I'm not doing. It's a consequence of my lack of discipline and choice.
Right. So again, where we would unpack on that is why the undisciplined now? Because you are a disciplined person.
Yeah, that's
You know,
that's,
you've
that's
done.
see, that's at the essence of it. I don't understand that. I don't understand being this way. I was going to say why I'm this way. Why I've always said is a red herring.
Right.
We're never gonna know why.
But maybe also it's because this irreverent part of you has been at bay for so long, or maybe you've had to repress it or whatever, that it feels like this might be
The ultimate
my
fuck
last,
you.
like
The
exactly my
ultimate-
last, a little bit of my last. I mean, it's like okay, I know what to do. I know I actually do have the discipline in me because I've pulled out the discipline before, which I know you have. And, but this time I'm choosing not to pull out the discipline. And it is a little bit of a like, well, fuck this. I don't want to pull out the discipline anymore. You know, I've been controlling and pulling myself back for the sake of the egoic part of me, which identifies with being there for others, you know, and that's not a bad thing. But I'm just freaking tired of it. Tired of doing that. I want to jump into the friggin' waterfall. You know, I had dreams about it. Okay, I jump into the waterfall and I go and it gets dark.
I remember when you first described it to me.
and-
I was in that moment briefly. I knew what that was.
It was terrifying, but then I know, okay, so I'm underwater, it gets dark, I'm banging against the rocks, and then I just take a breath and it's all over.
And you get so close to doing it. You get so close
It was
doing it.
Yeah.
That's that it could be that real.
Yeah. It was amazing. You know, it was amazing. I'm glad I didn't do it, but it's almost like I did do it because it's like I really went through what it would be like. I didn't just
You
think,
got
oh, I
as
want to
close
jump
as you
in there.
could get without finding out.
Yeah. You know, so it's yeah, it was an amazing day.
But if God came down to me and said, okay, you can have your choice about how this unfolds, Norman, I say to him, I want to be driven to retreat from this. I want to find satisfaction elsewhere. I want to be happy about not jumping in.
Right. Okay. So we want to.
And I'm not.
Right. You're not motivated.
Yeah. I need her to come down here and put me there.
Put you in a motivated place to do some of the things that would attenuate this.
To find peace otherwise.
Right.
To find tranquility, to find equanimity otherwise. Indeed.
That's a bit of a quandary. I'm thinking about equanimity.
I don't understand it.
And
I don't understand it.
Equanimity usually comes from being with what is.
Yes.
As it is.
That's right.
Right. So then we're at peace with the things as they are.
Right.
However, the next moment comes, right? And so the question is, can you be at peace while doing some of the things that might attenuate the death project? You know, so can you be at peace while doing the things? So now that's your state of being. Say you're going to the gym, right? And rather than saying, I fucking hate this sucks. It's like, no, I am at peace with myself as I am and the world as it is. Like, no.
In each successive moment.
And you know, I think you do know this, that it does get a little better. It doesn't get completely better. It's not like you're ever going to pop up out of the bed in the morning and go, I can't wait to go to the gym today. It's probably not going to happen. but it starts to become better. It starts to become easier. And the best part is you start to feel better overall in general. You just feel better throughout your day. I mean, I told you my story about losing like 12 pounds this year because I gained like 12 pounds during COVID, right? Last winter. And I feel better. I felt better. And so it's like, but I didn't like it all. I didn't like the whole,
I understand. When I was your age, that's what I was doing.
Right. So I guess you're saying, but part of it is not just, oh, okay, I want to lose 12 pounds. I want to feel better.
Understand that.
I want to feel better. And so it's
somehow, for some reason, and I attribute it to age, and that could be totally wrong, it's harder.
I think it is hard.
It's hard. It's way more seductive and attractive to say, no.
Yeah.
Let me just be at peace with this.
Yeah. Well, and I can't argue with that because I think there's a certain wisdom in that, honestly. I mean,
what are we missing? What am I missing here? If somebody's looking at this and listening to this, I have the feeling that they're saying, snap out of it, idiot. Right. What the fuck's the matter with you?
Right. No, I actually.
But if you're saying that, you better have a fucking answer for me.
Yeah. Yeah. What should Norman do today?
Yeah. Call in.
Let him know. Call and let us both know. I mean, maybe I'm too, again, a little too fatalistic or something like that, but I do feel like I try to think about this in terms of balance. How can I take care of myself? How can I take care of you? How can I just let things be the way they are? Right?
Especially when those two things clash.
Let nature take its, because there's a certain amount of nature just coming, right? So the natural cycle of things. It's like we're in a big river, right? We'll use the river analogy.
It's a
and
tide.
We can tide.
Don't tell the tide to
maybe we're in this canoe and we can sort of move around on the river a little bit, but the water's still taking us downstream. There's no stopping that. And we can get in a little eddy for a little while and rest, and then we get back into the stream. And we're just trying to learn how to navigate this experience right now, you and me, navigate this experience, going through this time, this place with these bodies as best we can, and trying to enjoy it as best we can. Enjoy it, appreciate it, love each other, love ourselves.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Love other people.
The problem is I'm not enjoying.
Right.
The problem is whatever I'm doing isn't working. That's the problem.
So what do you enjoy?
This is not good.
Right. But so think about what you enjoy and just do more of that.
Well, that I'm not the prime mover in all of this. I am being bombarded with things beyond my control that have to do with my health and my age.
So that limit what you can do.
Say again?
That limit what you can do in terms of enjoyment?
That define what can be done versus what can't be done.
Right. Well, you're not going to catch that fly ball that's a little too far,
right.
beyond your...
I've stopped playing softball.
Right.
They put me in right field and batted me last. And I always said, we were playing, I didn't want to be that old guy that loved playing and everybody was going, shit, not him again. Yeah. I didn't want to be that guy.
So you took yourself out.
Yeah.
You retired.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
foreclosed on that.
Foreclosed on the softball.
And I see more and more stuff. I mean, I've got young grandchildren I can't keep up with anymore. And I'm out of breath way too readily.
Right.
For reasons beyond my control.
Yeah.
that
but not completely beyond your
confront
control.
me, right,
Right.
that confront me with these limitations closing in. That I just, okay, let me just be at peace with this, the walls closing in.
Yeah.
Can't stop the walls from closing in.
No, ultimately, no. We don't stop the walls from closing in. Ultimately, we can just, as you said, do maybe a
But I
few
can't
things.
believe
to attenuate.
it's happening.
Yeah.
All you people out there that, you know, are have a theoretical or an academic understanding of aging, and you listen to stories of people who tried to report from the field what it is to be aging. You have no idea until it's, yeah, because you all, like me, in our minds are much younger than our bodies say. You all, like me, think you can get the right parallax on that fly ball. You can now, until you can't.
Right.
And can't. What's that going to do to you? You're going to have to course correct. You're going to have to recalculate that, oh, I'm not 28 anymore.
Right.
I'm not the athlete I used to be. I can't do the chores around the house that without help that I used to do. I'll handle that. I'll handle that. I can lift that. I can take. It's a kick in the stomach.
One of the things that occurs to me sometimes with all this is the great fortune we have to be even having this conversation and to be contemplating. You know, up until a little over 100 years ago, the average lifespan was 45 years old, like 48, something like that, right? So most of us, you and me, most of us were dead, you know, and you know, as I've said to you, the body.
But everybody went through this at the equivalent stage. So they went through this. What I'm going through now, they went through that when they were 48.
Right, right. You know, so they would get some disease or infection. I mean, before modern medicine came along, really, and then you know things were pretty grim for almost everybody. And
they didn't think in terms of grim. We're imposing grim on that.
Exactly. Good point. So it just was what it was. So on the one hand, we can be lamenting this process of the body deteriorating and not being able to catch the fly balls, which I can get. But on the other hand, we even have the chance to do that. We have these elongated lives now, but the quality of those lives sort of, it's like a really long rose season, right? I talked about the rose bush, right? It just keeps going, but eventually winter comes, right? But it's really elongated now, but that it changes. So we're not really figuring out like, okay, how do we keep enjoying this process? How do we keep changing and growing to sort of say, well, okay, what I enjoyed when I was 28, which was playing softball with my friends, I'm not going to enjoy that anymore. So I have to find something else to enjoy, right? And yeah.
Eating and drinking.
Eating and drinking, but you got to, you know, again, we know that there's some problems with eating and drinking.
Yes.
And so we have to temper that enjoyment or else it's going to.
I have a problem when people start saying we have to or we should.
We don't. Okay, no, you're right. We don't have to. I'm sorry. I stand corrected. We don't have to do anything. Enjoy all the.
Why can't it all just be good and okay?
I think.
I know that sounds stupid. No. Actually, it sounds stupid to me as I listen.
I mean, it does sound a little naive. However, you can enjoy those meals that one, but you also just have to know that that's accelerating the death project. Okay. And it's may not actually feel all that great all the time, you know? And so that's where I'm saying, do we get into balance with, okay, how do we enjoy the things that we enjoy, but also, as you said, we want to feel good. So how do you balance off that
Right,
feeling good,
right,
right? How do you
right.
balance off
right.
what's going to
You
feel,
you have to invoke discipline
Right.
somewhere
um,
or not.
or not, but just feel okay about it. Like, okay, so basically you
Yeah.
have this beautiful meal, lots of wine, you wake up in the morning, you're hungover, your weight's gaining, and you have to say, oh, well, this is it too. This is it too. You know, I asked for this.
That's starting to waft over me.
Right.
But I think that's a rationalization. If I were a psychologist, I would say that is a clever way to deny and avoid the conflict that would be so uncomfortable to accept.
Well, I mean, you know, on some level that you're accelerating again your detriment. But again, I'm not saying that that's necessarily the worst thing. I mean, had I jumped into the river, right? The worst thing I would have done was really upset my parents. Me being dead is not a problem. It's not a problem in the universe. It's not. Because I'm going to die anyways, right? I'm going to die anyways. It doesn't really matter whether I die now or die 20 years from now, you know? So
To the universe.
to the universe, it doesn't matter,
That's true.
right? So, you know,
That's true.
so if I like,
That's true.
yeah, if I said, oh, you know, this experience is what I need to have right now, then, you know, yes, it would have been upsetting for a few people. So I didn't do it partially for that reason, but there's no obligation for us to have to be here.
Well, it has been said, it has been argued effectively that suicide is a selfish act.
I think that, yeah, I agree with that. I agree. It is selfish.
So,
I'm not saying it's
so
necessarily
permitting self-destruction is suicide passively. And rationalizing it, finding a way to be at peace with it, feeds that selfishness.
feeds the possibility of that selfish outcome.
Right.
Remember we talked about once about betrayal. And when I'm counseling my students or clients on feeling betrayed, I say, well, and they also always talk about trust. How am I ever going to trust again? How am I going to trust this person? How am I going to trust anybody? And I said, well, listen, you can trust anyone implicitly to do what they feel is in their own best interest. They will do that every single time. Every time. This person is going to do what they feel is in their own best interest. And
That's a little cynical.
right,
How do you
but I think it's
explain-
true. I
well-
mean, give me an example of when it's not.
Parenthood.
But people feel it's in their own best interest because they have an
It's
idea.
in my best interest to make the sacrifices I've made.
Yes, it is, because you identify with fatherhood more than anything else. So your identity is wrapped up in fatherhood, and your being a good father is in your best interest.
Okay, then I agree.
Right. So,
Right.
you know, so it's
So there's no
yeah.
no, and I've heard this argument. This argument has been made by philosophers and scientists alike. There's no such thing as true altruism.
I think that that's true. There's no, I mean, one can be more altruistic, meaning one's identity of oneself can be one in which everybody's well-being is valuable to them. So, or my son's well-being or my well-being. So your kindness can be of two realms, I think. Kindness is either, I want to be seen as a good person, so I'm going to do nice things, right? Which is what most of us learn how to do. the other way of kindness is you are me. You and
I what?
you are me. My being kind to you is actually my being
Right.
kind to myself.
That's right.
Right. Now that's
My giving to you is
that's
really
pretty
taking.
close
I agree
to
with
true
that.
altruism. So when
I agree with that.
identify with my kindness, my
But it's
rubbing my arm is
but that
no different
feeds
from
me.
my rubbing your
That
arm.
feeds me. When I give to you, I'm taking.
Right.
That feeds me.
I understand, but you can see you're getting close to altruism in that place. You're getting close to my identity of myself is expanded to include, like most parents, I think, feel that way. That's why that's why when my mom said, "Don't do that, Greg, you're embarrassing me," right? And I turned back to her and said, "I'm not embarrassing you, I'm embarrassing myself." But that's not how a parent looks at it, because the parent is identifying with the child to such an extent that their actions reflect onto them, right? Which isn't really true, except if you get a whole society which buys into that. Well, why don't you discipline your children better? I'm like, well, they're just doing what they're doing, And so, right.
That's a semi-permeable line.
Right, I understand. It's not quite that simple, but my point is, we can truly empathize and feel other people's predicament and situation, in which case that kindness comes through is just being present with them. I mean, I think you and I have that with each other, right? We truly
Agreed.
love each other and care about each other. And even though we can sort of sit here and sort of have these disagreements, there's this empathy that comes through with you and I of just, that's a difficult quandary.
That's what sustains our give and take.
Right. So, we love each other regardless of outcome. And that's a beautiful thing. Not that many people have that. Right. And so
I think that's true.
yeah. And so
we have found it.
We have found it, you and I. And it's part of what makes our relationship so beautiful.
It's part of what gave birth to all of this.
Exactly.
Are we running out of time here?
Yeah, I think we're done for today. We didn't really answer any inquiry, but I think the inquiry of how we die is probably existential, right? It's been around for forever.
If you're going to title this,
right.
I think somewhere in the title needs to be the word mortality.
Right.
One's sense of mortality and
what
do we do with that?
How one relates to that, and how as one gets close to it.
What do you do with it?
What does it bring up? So that's
when it starts to coalesce in reality.
Right. So is that question of fighting, right? I don't want you to fight either. I don't want there to be fighting. I want there to be okay. Where's this balance between just allowing this rose bush to go through its season, and how do I want to suck the essence?
I am presently excavating to find that.
Yeah. Right. So it's experiments. That's what it ends up being. Now, let me try this now. Let me try this.
Yeah.
Right. And let me see where it takes.
Because this isn't working.
Right. If this isn't working, we try experiments, and that's doing the same thing in my life.
So you're going to put down how everybody reaches us if they want, right?
Yes, we're going to put it all out there.
Okay.
Yep. We're going to make it all look good. Namaste. And we'll see where it takes.